Things are heating up in Congress this week, and we are getting ready to see clarity come in. I think it's going to be a good one. We have a special guest for you, and that will be Warren Davidson coming in today to talk about this. Before we get started, I want to kind of hit on a few points. The biggest issue is the date and the timeline here. This, of course, coming in from Senator Tim Scott, chairman of the Senate Banking Committee, who announced that the committee will be holding the market structure markup on Thursday, the 15th of January. So that is right around the corner. It is going to be very critical, I think, for the crypto industry, but more importantly, I think, for what technology and blockchain is going to be representing here in the United States. And of course, Congress is in the middle of this right now. I want to lead off with a clip that will introduce Warren Davidson, who is a Republican congressman out of Ohio, who has been pretty much, I think, in the right place at the right time representing blockchain. We'll start with that and then we'll bring him in. Take a look.
So I personally have great respect for the courts.
You're making the case for this bill easier every day you're the chairman.
The one notable partial loss in the SEC's track record, of course, is the Ripple case.
Mr. Reiners, I hope no one's listening to you about this market. It has to be willful ignorance. They were going to spy on your bank accounts if you had $600 in your bank. And the public said, whoa, what? Why are you spying on my bank account? Because when you ask the unbanked, why are you unbanked? A lot of it is because of surveillance capitalism.
People aren't banked because they don't have any money.
If you can remember 12 or 24 words, how are you going to cancel that? Exchanges are trying to comply with the BSA framework. It would be evidence that they're trying to comply, correct?
Yes.
Okay, well.
Obviously, I'm opposed to this bill, but I just want to know what I'm arguing against.
All right.
It's been painful.
So Congressman Warren Davidson joining us now. Hey, listen, I'm a big fan. I have got so many good laughs out of your rhetoric against the Democrats and just in general. So thank you for your work up there for sure. But welcome to the show. How are you?
It's an honor to do it. Thanks for the little highlight reel there. A lot of memories flowing past some of those hearings.
How hard has it been trying to educate Congress and D.C. broader around what's happening really in blockchain?
Well, if you talk to the average person, they truly don't understand Bitcoin or crypto broadly. And for the average person, they conflate everything in the digital asset space with central bank digital currency. And they think that it's all essentially the same kind of thing. And I think that's why it's so important that really we should have been leading with a ban on central bank digital currency. President Trump's executive order nailed every component that we need to do. And he came in and just got it right. You know, he wasn't great on it, frankly, in his first term, but as President number 47, he just crushed it right out of the box. And that's helped us build the momentum we need to get action. I mean, we've been right on policy since 2017, 2018. It's just how do you get it in position to make Congress take action? And here we are. You know, we at least got a stablecoin bill across the finish line this year. I didn't love that version of the bill, didn't vote for it, but broadly, as you can tell, very supportive of the sector.
So, Congressman, when you look at the current status right now for clarity and whether or not we'll get this markup done, because this has been something that has been attempted last year, there were some target dates that were missed. Do you think this is a Q1 opportunity right now? Because it feels like we've got so many things, you know, facing Congress right now that this may get lost in the shuffle.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically what happened last year is they were supposed to move all of it together. And then they were breaking down over the market structure bill and the CBDC ban. Protecting self-custody still is a sensitive partisan topic. So they said, well, at least we have consensus on stablecoins. Let's at least get that done in July. And unfortunately, and what I think happened is that was, you know, part of the consensus building was stablecoins. And with that action taken, it kind of took some of the pressure off that was building for action. And they promised to move this bill through Senate banking in September last year. They didn't. Then they promised to do it in December. They didn't. Now they're promising to vote on it in committee next week. So hopefully they'll do that. But having said that, no one's come out and said we've got the votes to pass it even out of committee. So right. That's a cause for concern. And so the text is still being jockeyed about probably all the way up to the finish line next week on Thursday.
Okay, so timing-wise here, if Clarity Act doesn't pass before midterms, do you feel like this would be a dead issue and we just would never get it?
Well, eventually good policy makes good politics, right? I felt like eventually this is going to work for a long time, but it has taken so much longer. I thought this was just easy remedies back in 2018 when I introduced the Token Taxonomy Act. But here we are still fighting over it. So I think eventually it's going to get done. But in this state of play in Congress in general, if you don't get it done by summer, odds of it anything meaningfully market influencing rarely passes until the lame duck. So there's a chance in a lame duck after the election, it could ride on something, but that's kind of rare too. So I'd say if you don't get it done by June, it doesn't look good.
Okay, all right. So that's a good statement, I think, in the sense for us in the market being prepared for this. One of the things that, of course, has been the biggest, I think, in terms of our industry concern has all been around the banks and whether or not stablecoin yields could be accepted. I want to play a clip because I want to kind of get your opinion on this. Take a look.
The way I think about stablecoins is they should not pay interest. And
not even the little bit of interest I get on my money market
not to start out with. I think
Okay.
we're better off,
So it's
restricting them.
worse.
So they're
Thank you, Chairman. That was a very interesting dialogue.
All right, so this is the Dems trying to ban stablecoins yields, particularly. Are banks winning right now in this fight?
Yeah, I think they are. I mean, they kind of got a bit of a win even in Genius, and now in the Senate they're building momentum to have a rewards ban. So what passed in Genius was, banks can pay interest, but fintech companies, other stablecoin issuers who don't have a bank charter can't pay interest, but they could offer rewards, some sort of like a credit card rewards program.
Yeah.
You could have incentives for doing it. Now banks are essentially building momentum to ban even that. So that's one of the controversial things the Senate Banking Committee is weighing is limiting the ability for stablecoin issuers who aren't banks to pay interest. And think about the advantage banks already have. I mean, if you're a bank with a Federal Reserve master account, with current yields, you're getting almost a 4% rate right now just for having money on deposit. So think what you're doing with a stablecoin. You literally just back it with treasuries, which is what a Federal Reserve master account has. It's treasuries in it. So it's fully compliant. You get a 4% back-end deal that other operators can't. Now, yields on treasuries are in that range right now, so you can manage your own balance sheet and get it, but you can't pay it out. So if you're looking at Circle, for example, who went public, you can see what they're doing with their balance sheet. They're investing it in treasuries. They're taking a yield from the invested capital that they're holding in treasuries, and then they're offering a stablecoin. So they have a fair bit of cash just to operate the company because of the yield on the treasuries.
So, so banks somewhat winning right now in terms of their assignment. Is there any way that they could come in and actually get the Genius Act changed, even though we've already got a Genius Act in place?
Yeah, I mean, that's what they're fighting to do, and they may well succeed. I mean, and are banks really winning? I don't think so, because they've largely avoided it. And in essence, they're trying to destroy the industry. So a lot of the industry is just like losing interest, right? So they've fought so hard to effectively kill self-custody because they're afraid they're going to get disrupted. When the reality is customers might say, yeah, I want a conventional bank account, but for part of my money, I want to send a wire transfer for a reason. And I'm sick of this 1 week lag and everything else on it. I just want the money to move at the speed of light because the tech makes that possible. So I'm happy to keep a bank account. Banks have avoided this like the plague, but regulators have made it hard on banks to do it. I mean, the Biden administration's war on crypto essentially killed several banks because of this and drove banks out of the sector broadly. When some banks really wanted to do it, they were driven out of it. But I think banks are missing an opportunity here to serve a clear market demand that customers want. They want to have an account. Some portion they want to have in self-custody. That's one of the things that really needs to be protected. There are people that want it to be 100% account-based, and they don't want you to have any of your own money. These are generally the same kind of people that want to ban cash because they don't want you to have freedom and discretion about how you spend your own money. And they like having a regulated entity between you and your money, so they don't really trust you, and they trust their ability to leverage the third parties.
I want to go to a clip because this kind of is in line with what you're talking about around self-custody and the Democrat position on this, because I think a lot of people may be new to crypto right now. They're just now getting into the markets because of all these ETFs and Wall Street becoming so active in the space. Let's cut that clip and play it real quick.
The Keep Your Coins Act, the right of individuals to keep their coins.
I couldn't oppose this bill more. It is everything that I oppose.
For the record, say exactly how you can guarantee that when you bring on a crypto asset, that that value has not been used in an illicit transaction.
A good place to start might be something like sanctions.
We have sanctions regimes in place.
We're told it's about personal privacy. Is that really just a code word for tax evasion? Now, none of you have ever been successful criminals, so you don't know what it takes to be a successful criminal. Since none of you are successful criminals, you're not really in a position to tell us this.
Okay, well, listen, we've had a really good round of good hits coming out of D.C. There's very few of people like you who actually understand what's going on in the market. When you look at that right now and you consider self-custody, which is one of the, I would say, the cornerstones of crypto in general, almost anybody that's ever invested in it is considering self-custody. And a lot of people coming into it are wanting it. It's one of the things that draws them in. Are we at risk of losing this in the current Clarity Act during this markup phase?
Yeah, I mean, all the legislation that has passed the House so far passed without self-custody. And that's a big factor why I voted against the Genius Act. It's a payment stablecoin, and you don't have the ability to use it as a payment as an individual. It's all through a third party. Okay, fair enough, it doesn't overtly ban self-custody, but what you see is previous administrations, including really Steve Mnuchin when he was Secretary of the Treasury for President Trump's first term, have tried to limit your ability to do self-custody. Even at the end of the Biden administration, they were still working on this at the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. So this is a clear position where Democrats want to ban it, or they want to make it, credentialed. Well, if you give us your digital ID, we'll grant you permission to use some portion of your own money. And that fundamentally changes the whole concept of private property in Western civilization. So if you go back to first principles, no government gives you the right to transact. The right to transact predates government. So if you were trading, say fish for fruit, it would be kind of nosy for your neighbor to come over and say, hey, what you guys doing over there? That's essentially what government's trying to do on every single transaction, is put themselves between you and the person you're transacting with, and then condition your access to your own money. The only way you do that is the same features that cash has. And so if you look at the Bitcoin white paper and go out and read it, even in the abstract right at the beginning that says, here's why we're doing Bitcoin, it talks about a permissionless system where you can facilitate peer-to-peer transactions at the speed of light across time and space over the internet. So this is the promise of the technology. It's the clear capability of the technology, and it's completely arbitrary that the government would somehow come in and try to impose those limitations. And make no mistake, the government is trying to do that, both in the United States, all over the European Union, the European Central Bank, the Bank of England, the Bank of International Settlement in Switzerland, which is essentially the central bank for central bankers. They're all trying to limit your ability to have self-custody. So that's why we need to overtly protect it, because we know what they're trying to do.
This is this obviously not looking good right now. At least I feel like hopefully there's going to be something in this that will get maybe at least some agreement coming out on both sides of the House going forward. When you look at AML and KYC, do you feel like is there any kind of poison pill that potentially could come out of this in the Clarity Act, especially during this markup phase? Anything that you're worried about there?
Well, I'm a little worried that if people that follow like Tornado Cash and Samurai Wallet, these people were writing software. And if you don't really know those things, everyone's aware of Excel, Microsoft Excel. So imagine suing Microsoft and putting Bill Gates in jail because he made it possible for criminals to track their proceeds in a spreadsheet. And then they password protected the spreadsheet, so it's encrypted. I mean, this is essentially a sophisticated version of what you could do with an Excel spreadsheet, is what a digital wallet really is. It's a digital way to store your keys, your credentials. And so the founders of this were prosecuted for, operating an illegal money service business. Now, that's the problem is we should be clear that in this law that writing software, you're not building a security. Just if you're selling a hard drive, you're not facilitating anything. It's just a way to store information, whatever kind of information you want on it. It's not a security just because you're recording securities on it. And so there are poison pills like that some people want, and you need to fight off. And the reason it should be addressed in the bill is not because whether these guys may well have engaged in working with criminals, knowing they were criminals and trying to help criminals commit crimes. I don't know all the facts of the case. And part of the reason we don't is they took a settlement, so you didn't hear the full presentation in court. They did a plea agreement. So what I do know is writing software should not, that is neutral, should not be considered a crime. And so in that sense, we should protect it. So that's a turf war that still isn't fully resolved. And often, the resolution in Congress is let's just avoid talking about that for now. Mm-hmm. But that's part of what's been going on this whole time is Congress hasn't taken action, and that ill-defined nature has left the executive branch the ability to go with Elizabeth Warren's anti-crypto army and Gary Gensler and others to kind of wage war on the sector. So while we're safe under President Trump's executive branch, the reality is the point of Congress is to pass a law that provides these protections. So I hope they nail all of it and really codify the fact that speech and code aren't money service businesses any more than building a hard drive or writing software is some sort of security. It's just software and hardware.
We're getting into the language of the bill coming up next week. It looks like the markup will occur. The Senate version versus the House version. We saw a lot of concessions on the House version. Senate version, do you think we'll see similar kind of concessions to try to offset this, to get this through? What do you think will be the balance?
Well, I'm encouraged with a number of senators who've worked to, keep your coins protected. Self-custody, for example, is one of the main reasons that I was concerned about House legislation here. And the Senate seems to have gotten that message, and they're working hard to provide some level of protection for self-custody. They've lost ground. I mean, they started with essentially when Senator Lummis led the initial working group, they started with the base text that we've got for the Keep Your Coins Act. And they've kind of negotiated to kind of whittle that down. But I think they're going to protect self-custody. So in that sense, it's going to get better than what you've seen from the House if it can get out of the Senate. And that seems to be the case so far. But it's not over till it's over, right?
Right. No doubt. I want to go to a clip because this is one of your great hits out there, talking about CBDCs in general and how the government is aligned with this. Because let's get into my questions here in a second. Let's go to that.
It's time for the United States government to take charge and our central bank to record everything and everybody who owns tokens so that we don't have issuing crypto without the federal government being in control.
Is the financial equivalent of allowing the empire to build the Death Star, so long as they promise not to turn it on.
This Congress passes a bill against even studying CBDC.
By all means, continue to study it and come to the conclusion that it is a terrible idea.
Nobody knows whether a CBDC is a good idea. It's not clear.
Breathless stupidity.
Breathless stupidity. What I heard was you don't know the power of the dark side. We don't really need to further explore the power of the dark side. It's evil. We should resist it.
I'm with you, Congressman. I believe there is a dark side out there. We should avoid that. And of course, CBDCs are one of them within that. What would you say is the deal breaker for clarity? If that we would just come to an impasse and it would not happen, what would be the deal breaker?
Well, just looking at the lay of the land here in Congress, Genius had a hard time getting a vote because before you vote on something in the House, you have to pass a rule to say, here's the terms of the debate, and we agree amendments are made in order or not made in order. These amendments were included or not included, et cetera. And in the House, the Genius Act had a provision about central bank digital currency, that closed off offering a quote retail CBDC, like the Federal Reserve offering a direct account to consumers. But that's not what the Federal Reserve is working on. What they've been building, the Death Star they've been building, is called a wholesale CBDC. So they've been designing this system so that on the back end, all the data is collected on the front end by the banks or issuers. And then on the back end, all the rest of it is stored in the blockchain, and it has all of the functionality. It's like Hydra, lots of different heads, but the same beast in the back end. And because Genius didn't ban central bank digital currency, we had a separate bill, Tom Emmer's bill, to ban central bank digital currency, like the president's executive order does. And without that being linked together, a number of members blocked the rule vote in the House. Now, I was in a long series of meetings trying to help that rule pass so that we could get a vote on Tom Emmer's bill. But they need to lead with banning central bank digital currency, because to your point about where does this rank in the stack of stuff for members, even in Silicon Valley, if you talk to like Ro Khanna or people that represent New York City and the capital markets there, people that are representing Miami and Nashville and Austin, this isn't their top issue, right? Mm-hmm. Lots of people do own crypto, but it's not the most important issue. And for me, right, I've been able to speak on it because I'm on the committee of jurisdiction on it, and it's broken. But it's not because it's the most important thing that Congress solves this year. So I think that's the risk, that if you don't deal with the one thing every member of Congress is hearing about, it's easy for a coalition to just tank anything. And that's why I think it really is important to lead with a central bank digital currency. And I think the ban to ban central bank digital currency. And I think the other thing is pro freedom. Part of the whole reason people love it, Bitcoin and other assets are viewed as freedom money. And if you can't even own it without permission, self-custody, what is the point of the entire sector? And there are people lobbying hard to make sure that they get that exact thing. Yeah, why even bother with this sector? Let's just keep everything the way that it works today. And that kills the entire promise. You can't have decentralized finance without the decentralized part. And so no intermediaries get disrupted, until you have self-custody.
Totally. And I think the point is, this seems like it's coming down to a last stand. Especially around CBDCs, and obviously we've heard Chair Powell talk about this before. I think I have a clip on that around him promising against CBDCs. Let me cut that clip.
Do you acknowledge that this asset class has staying power in the U.S. economy?
It appears to have some staying power.
So can I have your commitment that as long as you're the chairman of the Federal Reserve System, that we will never have a central bank digital currency?
Yes.
Thank you for that. I think that's extremely important.
So Bernie pinned him down right there, and I thought that was a great question. Chair Powell was, ballsy enough to answer it and say, yeah, that's going to be the case. Do you think that will be the case in the new incoming chair potentially coming in? Do you think that is the most important, at least from our industry, from the blockchain industry, from crypto industry? Is that the most important thing to look out for?
Yeah, I think it's the most dangerous thing that the government can do. Is if you look at a central bank digital currency coupled with a digital ID, everything about your access to your own money is then conditioned and permissioned and surveilled by the government, by the central bank, central government. So I think that's a real problem. But the concern I've got is Powell in other clips with French Hill, for example, the chairman of financial services. He had an exchange where he's explaining the distinction between a retail CBDC versus a wholesale CBDC. And it's possible to design a interbank blockchain network that doesn't function exactly the same way as a central bank digital currency, but that's not the version they're building. So if you look at what, I took a trip where I met with the Bank of England, the European Central Bank, the Bank of International Settlement. They're all working, and they're working with our Federal Reserve Bank. If you look at Federal Reserve job boards, they're literally hiring people to write code to develop a central bank digital currency. They're not accidentally investing all this money to do it. They're doing it because they plan to launch it. It's like that's the reason I developed the analogy to the Death Star. They're building the Death Star. They're planning to use the Death Star. So we need to turn that off. And I had a question for a Federal Reserve member here this year, and Mickey Bowman, who's the vice chair for regulation, and I asked her, is the Federal Reserve subject to the president's executive orders, namely the one banning central bank digital currency? And, it was an evasive answer, like, well, we're not actually launching a central bank digital currency. Okay, great. But let's be clear, you are subject to the executive orders, and that's not clear. And this is part of the reason why the federal government needs to resolve this, both in law from Congress, and it's a pending court case. They're fighting over the ability for the president to fire somebody from the Federal Reserve Board, but I've encouraged them to actually argue over, is the Federal Reserve subject to executive orders? And I've also asked the Inspector General for the Federal Reserve to look into that. Are they complying with the president's executive orders?
Well, this seems to me like the number one issue. If we can get through that, of course, the other scenario that plays out within the Clarity Act is how do we get it across the line? There's going to have to be, at some point, be some concessions wrapped up here. One of the questions is around Trump's meme coin. And I want to play a clip because this is a debate around this. And then I want to get your opinion on how to maybe approach this to get clarity through. Let's take a look.
Coin. You know about Trump coin, right?
I do.
Are you okay with Trump coin?
I mean, I'm not sure that's on him.
It is on him.
But I don't think it's a clear sign of corruption.
Trump coin is owned 75% by Trump and his family. It vests throughout the term. What this allows is for people in an untraceable manner to donate to this and then get favors.
You don't know any of that's happening. You don't know that any of this is happening with that. Trump has sold a lot of things.
You know who Justin's son is?
Tell me. He sells Trump watches. He sells Trump commemorative coins.
I think it's really important to draw a distinction between monetizing your name, monetizing the presidency by selling things, and actual corruption.
How much do you think Trump knows about meme coins?
It doesn't have to know about it for him to know it's a good channel of corruption. Money
So is
into him and get
Bitcoin
favors.
corrupt?
No, because Bitcoin isn't being held by the president and used for favors. Do you remember Obama coin or like
Yes.
Hillary coin? No, there was no Obama coin.
Look at Hunter Biden. Look
Remember
at his
Biden
deals in
coin?
Ukraine. Look at all that.
So you're saying Trump is the second corrupt person?
I want to take it.
All right, so Adam Mockler right there kind of debating a lot of conservatives are on this. And I think the angle that I would take, because, my position on Trump's token, when I first heard it, I thought, oh, interesting way to raise capital, but at the end of the day, it probably ended up hurting the market. Timing-wise, probably a bad time. Had he just waited till after, Clarity Act, we wouldn't be dealing with any of this. But would this be an option where maybe Republicans could give the Democrats a little bit of a win and allow them to force Trump to sell his meme token as maybe the way to get clarity through? Do you think that would be any kind of agreement to get this through the last phase?
Honestly, I think that's the only way you're going to get Democrat votes on it. And I think if you think about it as a Democrat, it's very easy for them to just say, well, until that's done, I don't even have anything to talk to you
Exactly.
about.
Yeah.
And use that as leverage. And they have no pressure from their base to do anything other than that. And I think unless they make that concession, it's going to be hard. And look, I've clearly talked about crypto a lot. I remember in 2020 when the bottom fell out for a little bit during COVID and the market was falling. I talked to my mentor and I'm like, Bitcoin's for like $4,000. People lost their minds. And he said, well, I never see anybody get in trouble buying mutual funds, but I'd steer clear of it, especially as much as you're doing in the space, even though Bitcoin isn't in the financial services space because it's not a security. And that gets in the weeds for the average person. I personally chose not to buy any since I've been in office, which has cost me quite a lot of money, right? And so I've known about it. I believed in it. I've shared all kinds of information with lots of people about the space, and it's done incredibly well just since I've been in office, right? Mm-hmm. And when President Trump came in and does not like an investment in Bitcoin, but a true meme coin, this is often conflated with pump and dump scams, where this is one of the key reasons why we need what is a security, what is a commodity, and stuff. I'm not saying Trump coin was a pump and dump scam, but when you think about meme coins, some people say, well, look, it's like buying a baseball card. You buy it, you like it, okay, no big deal. I think you should be free to do that, but I think the concession that needs to be made here is pretty pragmatic. And at this point, I don't think there's like a lot of a huge upside to the Trump coin at this point. So I don't think you're really asking them to forego lots of money with a huge potential upside.
Well, hopefully the Trump camp is watching the show today, because I think that would be one of the ways to get this through, to get Democrats feel like they've got to win in here and protect some of the sovereign rights of Americans, which is really around CBDC and self-custody. I think those are the two things that are cornerstone to really crypto in general that have to make it through. So, Congressman, it's been great having you on. Thank you. First of all, thank you so much for your work, and please keep the hits coming. We love the hits coming out of D.C. But thanks for coming in.
Well, hopefully all of my colleagues are better informed and more supportive, and they'll just do the right thing, get this across the finish line. But in the meantime, we'll continue the fight.
All right. Thank you very much for stopping in. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
If you like this video, hit like and subscribe, drop a comment down below, and also join our free private member group. The link is in the description.